Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen first. Let me share my screen. Okay, myself Bhaskar. So some of you guys already know about me. I'm basically from technical side. I have been working on different technologies. Initially, my career started with Java development and web technologies development. So in Java also many changes happen over a period of time. So I worked with all those different uh, things like Java, J2E, JSP, servlets, and later on I worked with Oracle Fusion middleware. Oracle Fusion middleware includes Oracle ADF, Oracle SOA, and also BPM certain extent. So extensively we use these technologies for developing custom applications. And for last few years, again, I have been focusing on particularly the Oracle Integration Cloud and um, integration with Fusion applications, and also customizing, like developing some custom UI using any of these technologies like Oracle. Apex is there, ADF is there, VBCS, which just started using. I have been exploring on this technology for almost 2, 3 years. And we didn't had a very good opportunity to work on many applications initially. So now, like we also started consuming this technology, and we started exploring more. Compared to other technologies, in fact, VBCS is like, for example, if you want to become expert in ADF, it takes a lot of time, and you have to learn many things in ADF, and also you need to know Java to really like become an ADF proper ADF developer. So even though ADF also says it's drag and drop, but when you are actually developing the application, you end up writing lots of code, Java code. So there's a big learning curve for ADF, Oracle ADF. Compared to VBCS, that's what we're going to do today, Visual Builder Cloud Service, which is part of Oracle Integration Cloud. As a service, as a cloud service, it's part of Oracle Integration Cloud umbrella. So we call VBCS, Visual Builder Cloud Service. So let me provide a little bit background about these web applications. If you attended any of my other trainings, usually I start the same topic, talking about background about these um, web applications. I would like to throw some light on those areas first, so that you understand what is the meaning of a UI application or UI development, and what are the different options available for us for developing these applications in the industry, and why we are going for VBCS. What are the pros and cons maybe, or to become a VBCS expert, what you have to learn in VBCS, right? There are different ways of learning any technology. Particularly, you can just go and start using the technology. It's possible without knowing the fundamentals, like in a very strong way, without knowing the comprehensive picture of the technology. Still, you can go and use it. How? Maybe like a friend of yours can help on that. You can go and develop a specific solution for a specific requirement. You can get some documentation and some information on the net. You can go and provide some solution. That's how people start usually using the technology, because you may not have a plan in advance to learn the technology, get proper foundation, use it. So, and then later on we realize that, yes, I developed this solution, but this is not sufficient for me. I want to really understand this technology in depth. I want to understand the end-to-end comprehensive way of this, aspects of this technology, so that tomorrow, if you need to develop solution for any given situation, you should be in a position to come up with a solution. And then at least you should know the approach, you should know what to explore, where to start, and know how to take it forward. That's very important for the technology. As a technology, you should know that comprehensive picture is very important. Maybe some of them you don't have hands on, but if you know the in and out of the technology, what are the features available, and what are the different areas you need to really work on in the technology to use it. Once you get that picture, then it becomes easy. Otherwise, everything becomes new in the technology. Tomorrow you need to work on some solution, then you have to explore, that becomes new. So the way you're learning in this training also, by end of the training, you should know the complete picture about the technology. Maybe you are hands-on of only 60-70%. That's fine. But that comprehensive piece is very, very important for internet technology. If you learn that way, then it becomes easy. Okay. Coming to the web applications, why we're talking web application? Because the VBCS is about UI development, right? It's a part of Oracle Integration in Cloud as a service, as I said. But what you are doing in the VBCS is you are developing UI. That's the primary focus of UI, VBCS. If you're going for Oracle Integration in Cloud or Oracle SOA, there we don't talk anything about user interface. There we talk everything about the backend interfaces, the backend APIs. You're developing some business logic to access some other existing services, etc. But here your focus is more on the UI side. Your business logic is already available through some other interfaces, and you want to use those interfaces to develop the UI so that you can present your data to the end users in a proper like UI components, right? So coming to web applications, there will be always 3 different layers involved in the web application. So one is your browser, which is your UI, user interface, which is always in HTML, correct? You are developing your UI using HTML. So when you go to browser, that's what you are seeing. Then you also have a middleware. That is nothing but your web server or application server, we call sometimes. And you also have a database. So this is how any enterprise application would be designed. If you take even Fusion applications, which is developed by Oracle, what Oracle Fusion applications would be having? A developer who is working the Fusion applications or the team, they would be developing certain things in this layer, which you are seeing when you go to Fusion applications on the UI or any other application, what you see on the UI. So that is one layer. And when I'm doing some action on the UI, let's say I click on a button, I'm creating a customer. I click on a create customer button. Before that, I fill the form, I enter the details of the customer and click on the create. Then what happens? That request will be submitted to your middleware. That is nothing but web server. The web server will be actually receiving the request, and then the web server knows how to process your request. But web server doesn't know exactly the business logic. For example, I'm taking a customer. The customer has to be created in the database at the end. So web server doesn't know directly how to go and talk to your schema and how to raise, like how to execute one SQL so that it's going to insert a new record into the database table. That is not the intelligence of web server. Web server only knows how to communicate between your browser and the server. It knows the HTTP protocol. So that's why what we do as a development team, when you're developing a web application developer, what you do, you go and develop certain additional business components in this layer. So there is additional on the web server, what we are doing, we're developing some business components. Okay. What is a business component? This set of programs you're developing using some programming language usually. Like it may be Java programs. It may be, if you're using .NET, it would be like C#, those kind of programming you are doing. It could be PHP, it could be something else. So here you need some programming language to develop the business components. So what happens in that case, when the request comes, the web server knows, okay, this request is for this application. In this application, you already would have got the configuration done, saying that whenever I get the request for create customer, go and forward that request to so and so specific the Java component, the Java program, and that Java function or the Java method knows how to communicate with your database using JDBC connectivity or whatever, and then it's also going to also form that SQL statement on the fly based on the input what you're getting, and then it is going to insert the data into a database. That's how it's going to finally create the record in the database. That's what you want at the end. When I click on the create customer, it should create new record into my database table. The database you already developed, designed, and kept ready here. That is RDBMS, right? That is not really part of your UI application or the web application. That is outside your web application, which is running on a database server. So that schema is one, schema design and development is one part of your application development. And then you are developing some web applications so that you can expose some meaningful user interface for the for the users, right? So here there is a connectivity required between browser middleware web server and also web server and your database. Okay. So this is your components. And here what you do, you'll be developing some, you'll be working with SQL, PLSQL, etc. or DBMS. So in addition to this HTML business components, what we're talking, there are different technologies available. For developing your UI, you may be working with JavaScript. You may have to work with CSS. You may be learning something like what is just JSF, and it could be like your JSP. So there are a lot of other things are available. And then in the middleware side, what you do if you're developing Java, in the Java framework, you may be working with the Java Enterprise Edition, servlets. Here also like JSP is basically you're developing here, but it will be actually the user will be actually seeing the output of the JSP and the browser, etc., which is going to generate the HTML for you. Servlet also, in fact, it is going to create a HTML for you. It can also write some server-side logic, all that stuff, etc. Let's not spend too much time on this. I'm just giving an idea. This could be your PHP, this could be your .NET, whatever you are developing some kind of business logic. So the business logic knows how to communicate with a database and also how to execute the required SQL statements so that your request is completed. Not only that one, when the request is coming back, I mean the data is coming back from the database, etc. You also want to send the data back to the UI, and that UI has to be in HTML. So there should be a way to convert your data from the normal, like your data, what you're getting that text into HTML. That's also part of your business components, what you are having here. Usually nowadays, what we do, we don't really develop that low level programming. We don't really convert HTML and all, but when you, if you work with servlets, etc., you would be knowing that. We actually do that. What are the data I'm getting? I'm going to write a Java program to convert that into your HTML using some out.println or whatever, like the stream.println and that stuff. So now there are many frameworks available for us, and these frameworks are actually helping us to avoid this low-level development, and you can make much faster way of getting these applications developed. For example, you're using ADF or you're using Apex. Now we are talking about VBCS. What are these things? These are different frameworks available from Oracle, these things. Like that, you're having frameworks from different other providers also. For example, earlier we used to have a Struts framework. It's an open source. Struts framework also used to help us how to communicate or how to make a configuration between your UI and your business component, so that it automatically knows what business component to be loaded. And after you are done, one request is done, where should it go in the next request, etc. All that navigation also will be configured in the configuration file, etc. But when you come to these technologies, in fact, it's much more easier to develop your applications. So in these frameworks, what we are doing, at the end of the day, you are still developing business components, you are still developing the UI, and you are having a mechanism for communicating between your web server and your database. But as a developer, I don't write a JavaScript probably. I don't need to write CSS much. I don't need to write a Java code. I don't need to write any of .NET code. By dragging and dropping certain things, I'll be able to develop my application. That is the idea of most of these frameworks. So the framework knows automatically generating the business components and automatically generating the UI based on your drag and drop. And it also knows how to communicate between your middleware or the web server and your components and the backend database. So that is the beauty of these frameworks. So for example, if I'm using a Java J2E normal development, it may be taking for example, 2 weeks for developing some functionality. I can get that same functionality using ADF, Apex, or VBCS, these applications within 1 day, maybe. That's possible, really. You don't really, without writing much code. Okay. So now, let us understand a little bit about how the VBCS works. Okay. So what we're trying to do in the VBCS. The VBCS is completely following the microservices kind of architecture in terms of the way the Oracle developed and internally they are deploying. So it is using all the latest this service architecture. Okay. So what it is doing, The VBCS knows only one thing. You are primarily focusing on the UI development. There, you're not really worried too much about business components. You're not worried about your database much. Your primary focus would be how to get the UI. Like for example, I have, okay, 1 second, please. Right. So for example, in this case, in VBCS case, what I was telling is your primary focus in the UI development. You may want to develop, you may want to render your customer details using a form. You may want to render your list of customers or list of suppliers, etc., in a table component, or you want to do some more navigation. You want to develop much more complex navigation UI, etc. That's the primary focus. And then what else it is going to assume? Your backend component, the backend business components will be always REST web services. VBCS always assumes that your backend is available as a REST. It could be, it doesn't care about whether it is Java, PHP, .NET, where your business logic is available. If you want to develop the VBCS UI, your backend business component has to be exposed as a REST API. Then only you will be able to call that using a VBCS user interface. That is a requirement. Okay. Now, so the VBCS is going to have two ways of managing your data. One is called business objects. The second one is service connections. Why? There are two things. Service connections you are going to use whenever you already have a REST APIs developed and already deployed somewhere. It means I want to create a customer. I want to create a supplier in your application. Create supplier REST API is already available for you. How you developed? Somehow you developed. You may be developed using some Java. You can even develop using PLSQL. You could develop, we can talk a little more about that towards the end of this session today. You can develop using any other mechanism. You already developed that and the REST API is running for you. Now you want to develop user interface for that. So in that case, what you are going to use, you are going to use service connection, the VBCS. There could be many situations where you don't have a service connections. You don't have the REST APIs. You are building your application from scratch. You don't have any database already developed. In that case, you will be starting with business objects. It means I want to develop my schema. Let's say I want to develop HRMS application. For HRMS application, I want to have HRMS related objects. You should be having employees, you should be having department, and maybe n number of other database tables. So those business objects we are actually calling as a business objects in case of VBCS. So here we don't use SQL database itself directly, but you're going to create business objects. You are going to define from scratch what is my business object name, what are the different fields I need in that business object, what is the primary key, what is the each field type, etc. Very similar to how you created your tables. Okay. In that case, your VBCS gets automatically database behind the scene, but you don't have direct access to the database in case of business objects. Or in case of VBCS, you don't have the database access directly. If you want to communicate with the database, only way you will be able to do is you need to first expose those objects as a REST APIs. How do you do that one? If you want to expose your database objects like your views, tables, or your PLSQL APIs, you have to first expose them as a REST APIs. That is possible through two means. One is Oracle database comes with something called ORDS, ORDS. That is, you can use that ORDS service to expose your database objects as a REST APIs, or you can use some other middleware like Oracle Integration Cloud, for example. Like you can develop some integrations because Oracle Integration Cloud knows it has adapters to communicate with the database, whether based on its on-premise database or your ATP on the cloud, or it could be DBaaS, like a database cloud service. In all those cases, you have the adapters. Using those adapters, you can create the REST APIs in the integration cloud and expose them as REST APIs. So once your database is exposed as a REST APIs, as I said, even the PLSQL API, which is available, can be exposed as a REST API. Then you'll be able to create the service connections for that and use that in the VBCS. So what you're trying to do here, you're trying to develop business components with the help of only two means. One is service connections and one is business objects. You're not writing that code directly here. You don't have a way to write a business logic within VBCS. Even if you want to write the VBCS business logic, you'll be writing the client-side business logic. What is that one? Like JavaScript business logic. But the client side means usually you should go to client-side business logic only when it is required. Not like you want to write the complete business logic within your client side. For example, I want to have a small validations before the data goes to the server. Then those small validations you can put in the UI. But let's say I want to take a list of suppliers and then I want to do some manipulation on the supplier data. Those and all you should not be doing in the JavaScript side. That should be part of your backend. Now in the backend, in this case, it depends. It's really wide open in case of VBCS. As a part of architecture and design, usually like we'll be putting some effort to decide what is my business logic is going to be. Whether am I going to create this integration or am I going to create some PLSQL APIs, or am I going to write some other Java, which I'm going to expose that as a REST APIs, and so on. We'll be talking a little more on that maybe in the future sessions, etc. But it's very clear here that your VBCS is mainly focusing on, once you have these either REST APIs or business objects, how to develop your UI using those business object service. That is the primary focus. Okay, so what we're trying to mention here, I hope you're getting the picture of what I'm talking about. See, here you are developing an application. The application will be always having the UI application. You're developing some UI, and what UI needs? UI needs some data. That's what you are going to show in the UI, correct? And where will the data come from? From your application. What is your application means? The application is usually nowadays, when you're specifically talking the ERP side, your data will be in the database, correct? So if you're coming from the database background, you would always tend to say, my data is available in the table or in a view I'm exposing, or I'm having PLSQL APIs. You just call that, right? That is the data. So when it comes to VBCS, your data has to be represented only with two things, either business objects or service connections, right? So what we'll be doing in the training, we are going to in fact talk a little bit more about REST services, like the basics of REST services. What is the get operation, put operation, post operation, delete operation, what kind of input possible, what kind of output possible, what is JSON, etc. You can take some examples and execute and and so on. Can you create a REST API using VBCS? Not really. VBCS is not meant for creating REST APIs. REST APIs will be created by either integration cloud or ODS in the database, or it could be some other server middleware where you're having some Java, etc., and expose the REST APIs. So for VBCS, the REST API should be already available and you should be calling that. So we are going to understand about how the data is managed in the VBCS with the help of business objects and service connections. That's one thing. And when you're doing that, you're basically, so you can put this as a two, three buckets in this learning. One is the your business data. So business data will be, as I said, business components or service connections. And then you should also know what is your REST API means. So you should be knowing what is get operation, what is post operation, what is put operation, and delete operation. So we need to understand those basics also. In the business objects, what you'll be learning, how to create business objects. What is the, if you want to have a primary key, how you are going to create it. If you want to have a foreign key, reference variable, how you are going to create. Working with different kind of data types, and so on. You're going to work with business objects. And then one more thing in the VBCS is what happens, even the business objects will be exposed as a REST API. Even though you're not creating REST APIs, indirectly it is going to create REST APIs for you. That means for the UI, the business component, the business object also will be visible as a REST API one. That will be part of your business object creation. When you create, as a developer, you don't do anything additional step. It is going to create the REST endpoints for you, like your get, put, post, delete, all those operations will be exposed for each business object what you are creating. Okay. right? So once you work with this data, then what you want to do, you want to develop the user interface, correct? That's where you are creating the UI. The user interface, what you need to learn, you have to first learn how to create a UI application. Then you need to understand how to build your pages. What do you mean building pages? How to use different UI components. Like I want to render my data using table. I want to render my data using list. I want to have a list of values component. I want to have a button. I want to have n number of UI components based on my requirement. So you should be knowing how to develop the pages with the help of those different various UI components. And then what you need is one more thing called page flows. What is page flows? When you're developing an application, one page is not sufficient. You are going to have n number of pages, and you can also have a specific functionality as one flow. For example, registration of user, that is one page flow. I want to create supplier, that could be one page flow. I want to have a shopping cart, that could be one page flow. Like that, a specific functionality which is going to be a set of pages, a sequence of pages would be treated one page flow. So you are going to create a page with the help of your components. Your component is going to talk to your data using business objects or service connections. And then you're going to create page flows, which is going to internally use the pages. And you're in fact creating multiple page flows so that you're modularizing your UI development. Instead of keeping everything in one place, you are creating, this is my flow 1, which is going to have page 1, 2, 3, 4. Flow 2, page 1, 2, 3, 4, like that you're creating. And then you are going to create the navigation among those pages. What is so big deal about this? It is a big deal because I'm having one page. I'm having a list of employees. Okay, then I click on one row. When I click on that row, I want to show all the details of that employee. Or I have a list of departments. I click on a department, then I want to show only the list of employees of that department in the next page. How do I navigate to that page? How do I get the data only what I need in that page? There's a lot of stuff you have to work with. So that's where you are going to work with the navigation among pages. So here you can also talk about one more thing. You're also going to work with variables. Okay, and so on. I can show this in the one small application I would try to create today, or existing application. Then you'll understand more about what I'm saying here. I'm trying to create a scope for your learning as part of like today's session. When you say VBCS, what you have to learn? You can go and create one VBCS application for example, Fusion integration. Yes, that's also possible. I can customize some UI. But that is one way of learning. What you're trying to learn here is you're learning in a very organized manner so that you can develop any UI application using VBCS. Either you are working with Fusion applications, you are working with something else, it doesn't matter. You will be able to develop the custom application using VBCS. So when you know the scope of what you need to learn or what you're doing the technology, then it becomes easy for you to learn it or also to use it when you go back. Okay. So you need to know about how to manage your data. You need to know how to develop the user interface and then how to navigate among the pages. That's very important. And here one more thing comes into picture, which I will put that is another bucket here, that is events and actions, or we call action chains in case of VBCS. What is that one? The navigation is primary. It's very important in case of UI. So between the pages, and when I'm navigating from page 1 to page 2, the page 2 may need some input parameters for that one. In case of department, let's say I have a department list, and from there I want to go to employee list. When I click on one department ID, I want to go to this page and show only list of employees of that department. Now this page will be needing the department ID as an input. So how do I pass the department ID as input? First of all, how do I get the current row department ID? How do you pass the department ID to employee list? And how this page is going to get only employees of that specific department. You will be still getting from using some service connection or data business object only. But your service connection may be get all the employees or get employees for a specific department. You may have, may not have. Then how will you do that one? So that is part of your, like, your action chains. There is actually, in fact, in VBCS, the most important thing is knowing about events and action chains. If you know this one, learning these things is not very difficult. And you may not be able to learn each and every component like at once. You need not required also, because UI component, there are like n number of UI components. So you'll be using some components. Whenever you need any other component also, you'll be able to use it, you'll understand. But once you get the concept of events and action chains, then it becomes more powerful. You'll be able to develop much more sophisticated user interface with the help of some more business logic. When I say business logic, within the limitation of your service connection business objects, you can write some business logic with the help of action chains. Okay, so that you will use wherever you need it. But when you need more complex business logic, you will not prefer to put that in the action chain. You'll probably go to your some kind of, again, your backend, either your Java, PLSQL, or whatever is available for your, within your application development. Maybe it's outside your development. You may have to take help of some other team there. It's possible. Okay. This is your events and actions is what we're talking about. So if you know this thing, there are a lot of action chains are available. You're navigating, and then you are working with the variables, working with your REST endpoints, and so on. We'll be talking. I can show that actually detailed course, like where we're having all that list, etc. So this is another category of bucket where what you're learning. Then what you need to know, you also need to know how to manage your application cycle, development cycle. It's more of managing. For example, you want to import and export an application, or you want to export some data, import and export only data in the business objects. Okay. Or you want to integrate with your Git, that is source control system. What are the different options available for those kind of things? This is more of managing an application. I want to take from development to testing to production. How do you do that one? That is not exactly your coding and all, but this is also required very much, right? And then what you need, in fact, even before this, we should say security, another very important point. I'm developing some UI, that's fine. Can I add the security? How do I add the application roles? Okay, application roles. And not only that one, these application roles can be mapped to your cloud identity provider roles also. So in Oracle, as a cloud, when you're getting cloud account, you can manage something called in the federation, you can go and create your identity provider. The identity provider will be having a set of roles available based on different areas. Using that, you can create some groups. And now when you're developing VBCS application, you can create application roles, and these application roles can map to that role, because as a user, you'll be actually assigned to those roles. And when you come to this UI, now based on what application role you are having, indirectly what user role you're having in your account, based on that you'll be able to map it, and then your application will be able to provide proper access. So basically you're doing two things, right? One is when you are talking about security, one is authentication, where you need not worry much about it because your integration, your cloud service will get that. What you're focusing more is on the authorization. Authorization is what? Authorization nothing but within your application, what exactly the access is possible for this user. Can I go and create? Can I go and edit this page? Can I go and view page, only view data? All that will be part of your authorization, which also is required in terms of application development, security. Okay. So you have the security, you have the managing applications, and then you also will be talking about some common use cases. We'll be talking about that one. And then we'll be doing the mobile application development also. That is another beautiful thing from VBCS. Without really learning your Android development or iOS development, without knowing Java or whatever that object C, those things in iOS, you can develop the mobile application with the help of VBCS. Another the advantage here, what are the business objects and your service connections you are creating for developing your web application, your web UI. The same backend can be reused. In fact, the same UI components also. The UI development is very similar to what you do for the web development for mobile applications also. And you're reusing most of the things, and you develop the application. And not only that, when after you develop the application, you can automatically build that either Android for Android or also for your iOS. Both the things are possible. And then you can download that APK, then you can upload into your Play Store, or you can only use it within your enterprise, like no store, anything is possible. But you need not really develop using Android and iOS, just VBCS development is sufficient for getting mobile applications. And same set of components and same set of your backend, whatever you are using for web application. So that thing also we are going to do in the training. Okay. Then I hope I covered that. Let me open, in fact, yeah. So I will do one thing. I'll come back to this one. I'll come back and see what else we are going to cover, which I didn't mention exactly there. I'm just trying very, very high level. What are the different buckets you are going to need to know as an application developer in the VBCS. We'll also talk about JavaScript and all will be there. Yeah, one more thing could be like your translation that I can put into, for example, you want to use translation for different regions. Like you want, for example, you are in Middle East, Dubai, like you want to have Arabic. How you can get that in the UI? You're developing the application. You want to show that for different regions, like those things. You are internationalization. Those things also we can touch base. Right? I'll come back to that. So, but I want to just show one thing, and then I'll take the questions. If you already seen this, it's fine. If you attended my OSC training, then I already shown this. Developing a small application. I'm not going to develop today. I'll take an existing application which I already developed here. So when you go to VBCS, how it would be? You're going to log into your OSC home, and from there, I'll take the questions. Actually, I'll take another 10 minutes for you to show this one, and then I'll take the questions. The Visual Builder. You click on Visual Builder, you come to Visual Builder, and then you can develop the application from here. Okay. So sorry. Okay. You can create a new application, or you can import an existing application. If I already have an application, I can just click into that one. Now in the application, you are going to work with all these things. So just now I already named it, right? You are going to work with business objects. You're going to work with service connections. You're going to work with web application, mobile applications. These are the primary things. Now within this one, if you go to web application, you have the flows. The flows will be having like different flows. For example, in this application, very small, just a demo, which contains employees is one flow, departments another flow. Now employee contains set of pages, which is employee start page. From there you are going to details, and then you have the list editing employee, creating employee. Okay, this is all. It is very, very easy to get in VBCS, but that is not what you're going to learn in the training. That is just one session would be sufficient to learn inbuilt way of developing your UI. I can simply go and create a new page in this, and then you go and drop your table component, and then you can add the data, etc. I can show one example also at the end that you are going to get automatically. But what you are going to do is, if you have to develop your own UI with your own flows, all that, not only that one, in the flows also, there's a way to reuse the flows. I create one flow and I want to use that flow from some other page. How that is possible? There is something called flow container. How to use a flow container? And then also in the UI, you also need to work with one more thing. You'll be having UI components, also layouts. With the help of layouts and UI components, you are going to develop your UI. So those and all will come into picture in the the UI development side. Now, if you go back to let us run this actually what it is there. If I run this application, I'm just showing a list of employees here. Not sure if there's any error or it's coming. A little bit slow, but this server. Come on. I just picked some application. I didn't check whether it's having any other errors or not. It's fine, let it come. I'll try to explain small things. So actually what it is supposed to show, it's a list of employees. And from there I can go and create, show the employee details. Yeah, it's coming. This is having employee ID, first name, last name, phone number. So when I select something, then I can go to employee details. So which is going to open that specific employee with the details. I can go back and here I select something, I can go and edit, or I can create new employee, etc. So if you just building this application is very simple. But what I would like to show here is, I hope you are able to understand what I mentioned here now, whatever I was trying to mention. To develop your application, you need to work with business objects. Here you are having 2 business objects in this application. But when you are developing your application, you may be having hundreds of business objects. It's almost like a schema. Okay. But usually what I noticed, in case of VBCS application development, you are only, when your logic is very simple, you don't have any existing schema, you will go and create the business objects. Otherwise, you'll try to use the existing database. So you may not really have, for example, 500 business objects in one VBCS application. Very unlikely you'll be using the VBCS that way. But 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 is, of course, very common to have those kind of business objects in count. So here you can see, for example, employee is a business object, which is having these fields. Now I said it's also going to create the expose a REST endpoint automatically for us. So this is get many employees, get one employee based on the employee ID. This is post, patch, delete. All those REST APIs will be automatically provided by your framework. You are not going to create any REST APIs. Why? Because VBCS only understands one thing, that is a REST API. The UI will not know anything else. The UI components, what you're developing, they are expecting the data should be available to REST API. So even though you are creating business object, it is going to actually expose them as a REST endpoints. We call endpoint in case of REST. Okay, like the departments are also having your fields and then endpoints like that. Then I said the service connections, which is not available here. In this example, I don't think I have a service connection, but the service connections will be able to create here. If you already have a REST APIs, the REST API may be coming from anywhere, which is available on the cloud. It could be on some enterprise server. It doesn't matter. As long as this cloud instance has access to those URLs, you'll be able to create the REST API. It could be coming from Fusion applications if you're working in the Fusion side. Okay, you want to have, for example, create supplier or get suppliers. I can use that REST API, which is part of Fusion applications. I can create a service connection for that one. Then I'll be able to use that service connection to build my UI. Okay, so that's how it works. The rest, these things we are going to learn more things. What is the rest and all we'll be talking about. In fact, I'm going to introduce Oracle Apex ODS in this training, because if you want to learn this VBCS, you also need to work with some business logic, right? I cannot simply say, I want to create an application which is going to render the data, that's all. No. In fact, we're going to create an HRMS application as part of the development. All these scenarios, we're going to learn with the application development. When you're developing HRMS application, you'll be using the HR schema with like the inbuilt HR schema comes along with Oracle, this one XC database, etc. But we'll be creating a few more our own database objects over there. For example, we are having employees, departments, regions, locations, etc. Those things. But we'll be creating something called job pay elements and then employee pay elements, etc. Job pay element will be having its own set of pay elements based on the job code. then employee. So whenever you are creating an employee, you want to automatically populate the pay elements based on the job code. And when you go to employee, I want to manage my pay element. I want to set my salary, right? Then what you do, you are going to get the default data from the job code, and then you want to edit that. Where will you do all that? You're not going to do that in the UI side. That you are doing the PLSQL API. Now, where will you create that PLSQL API? So the best way to do is you can create one Apex account on the cloud. On the Apex account, you create the database objects, etc. And those REST APIs will be able to call from here, so that you'll be able to write the business logic for your application. So that whole setup we are going to create. So you need some setup to have the business logic also. So that will be part of our learning. So that will also expose into this Apex one side a little bit. In fact, we can see a little bit more about Apex also. So what happens that you may be developing your UI with a combination of Apex and VBCS. It's very unlikely that we'll be creating ADF nowadays. Oracle is not recommending much. I mean, according to my understanding, VBCS and Apex are actually more in the limelight now. Okay, so I go back to this one, and then you have the web application. These are the pages I was talking about, and then you have the page flows, all that. Okay, in the page, again, you're having, this is in fact showing the code side. This is the design side. By default, we are going to work with the design, but you'll also get familiar with the code. It's important. In fact, when you're doing the translation, so you want to show this label, for example, first name in English, and you want to show like in Arabic or another language. So what you do is that usually you will go to code, and then you can, in fact, what you do is you'll be having a title for that. And then you can, there will be something called here, this one. So you can go there and you can see add translation bundle, etc. So usually you'll go to code, and by end of the training, you'll get familiar with the coding also, this code side also. Even though you need not do that one, you can go to design mode and do everything, the UI development, but you can also, you will end up using the code also, so that will become sometimes flexible and easy to customize certain things by going there. Okay, this is the page, and in the page you're having your variables. By default, you're getting some variables, and this variable is having, it could be different types. You are creating, usually you are going to work with 3 types of variables. One is the primitive types. One is the variable which is based on the REST endpoint, and other one is a custom type. What is custom type? For example, I want to create a complex object variable by taking only few fields of the REST output, or I want to create an array of some string or array of some other the REST endpoint data object, the output what I'm getting. Like that, you can create custom variables also. So that is about variables. Then I was telling there is something called events and action chains. So this is the most important thing of your UI development in the VBCS. So in this case, if you go to the employee page, so what is happening? When I go here, I select something, I'm going to employee details. There's a 2-page here coming into picture. Employee, this is a table component. When I click on this one, it is doing one action, taking the current primary key. And then when I click on employee details, it is navigating to that page, also passing the currently selected employee ID to as an input for this one. So how do you get that one here? So this is the employee details page. Employee details page will be having some variable, which will be in fact, that is going to be your input parameter. Now that input parameter will be coming from the employee start. Where is that done? That is done as part of the action chain. So in the action chain, what is happening now? Navigate to employee details. You can see that when you do this point is actually sending the employee ID as an input to that page. And in that page, you'll be having something called VB enter as an action, load employee chain. And the load employee chain is actually going to get the data from your REST endpoint. And after you get the REST endpoint data, you're going to assign to that variable. Who is building all this? For the default UI, you are going to get it. You can drag and drop and it's going to develop your action chains. But that is not your end of your application development. You are going to create many custom UI flows where you are going to work with these action chains. So we are going to in fact work with action chains for building our custom UI and etc. So which you are getting familiar with these action chains. So here actually you are going to spend a good amount of time to understand what are these different action nodes you can use. For example, this is your call rest endpoint. This is your variable. Like that, you want to navigate to something. Then having a navigate, and then you're having like additional logic also. Like that, you'll be working with a set of these action chain nodes as part of building your action chains. And then you also have settings, not much translations. Is there JavaScript is also possible? As I said, functions you can use. We'll be showing some examples using JavaScript, how to deal with JavaScript, like if you need to use it, etc. So I hope you're able to visualize what I explained here. So page flows, navigation among pages, building events and actions, and security will be working with like creating application roles. So that you'll be doing when you go to your settings here. So from settings, you'll be able to manage your user roles, etc. You can create application roles and map it to your actual cloud user groups, etc. That will be done. And your managing your things will be on top of whatever you learned here. For example, you want to expose your business objects also can be import exported. Your application also can be import exported, and you can move to like from development to stage to production, etc. There's a having this one Git integration, etc. Those things and all will be talking a little bit like how to Git. I will try to show the steps, etc. We may not be able to do the live integration there, but we will get some overview about that one. Right, and the mobile application, then you will be developing new mobile applications. In the mobile application also you'll be able to use the business objects and service connections, and then you will be able to build that configuration for Android, iOS, all that you'll be able to do it in the here. Then your common use cases. So basically we are going to develop this HRMS application in such a way that you'll be getting all these use cases into that one. So by end of the training, we'll be having one application with different menus, different page flows, and different pages with all kind of components with different action chains, etc. With the help of business component, business objects, and service connections. Service connections will be coming from different sources. Service connection, the REST API may be coming from your some database, which will be using either on-premise database or you'll be using some Apex database, etc. Or the service connection may be coming from Fusion, or it may be coming from within your integration cloud. All those use cases I'll be showing that. So with that, you'll be able to develop, when you're developing application also, you'll be developing by using some of those REST APIs. So some scenarios will be doing independent of your application, and some scenarios will be part of your application development. That's how you're going to learn this VBCS technology. Real quick, let me show this this one. Yeah, so if you look at this one, I hope it's more or less covers same thing here. We're talking about some architecture and then business objects, web application using business objects, service connections, then using service connections, working with variables, UI flows, actions and action chains, then working with the designing pages with the help of different UI components, etc. There you are also having many things, working with images, how you can make configure like showing and hiding the components, how to use the code. I was telling right at the, you'll also get familiar with the actual code, what it is generating, working with LOVs, how to filter the data which is coming in the component, working with functions that are nothing but JavaScript, input parameters for the page. So all these part of your UI designing. You also work with layouts. I don't know if I mentioned anywhere here properly. Yeah, containers and page layouts, etc. Security, then the management about data management and importing, exporting, and then the common use cases and the mobile application development, etc. Okay. Common use case we are going to talk, for example, you want to format the row values in a table conditionally. You want to create search filter on the table. You want to build, in fact, I didn't mention here somewhere, I think I mentioned dependent LOVs. All those things will be also directly or indirectly are going to work in the either application what we are building, or it could be a software scenario. Okay, so that's how you are going to learn this VBCS. Yes, I hope I kind of covered what I wanted. Now I can take the questions, and I think whatever I missed, I'll be able to cover that when you're asking. Probably I would have missed when I'm going the flow. Sometimes I miss it. Okay. So you can ask the questions now, please.
Yeah, Bhaskar, I have some questions. Can I ask?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So as you said that VBCS backend is always, I mean, REST services.
Yeah.
So you mean if you want to build any application in VBCS, so every time you have to use those REST web services. It's mean you are going to consume REST web services. For that you have to make service connection.
Right.
So one service connection will have one REST web services. Is it?
Right.
So if I want to consume multiple REST web services for one application, it's not possible.
You can create multiple service connections. It's not a big deal there. You just what you do
for one application.
Yeah, within one application, you'll be, it's like, for example, business objects. You're having multiple business objects, right? The same way I will be creating multiple service connections like this service connection, one connection from defined by endpoint. You provide the URL of the service connection, that will become one service connection. Like that, you can create any number of service connections here. See, in the REST API, what happens? One REST API will be one function only. For example, create employee or create supplier, one REST endpoint. Get supplier, second REST connection. Like that, we are going to create multiple service connections here. Okay. It's like you are, if you want to compare that with your Java or PLSQL, you can say one function is one service connection, usually. Okay.
And what about this extension with, I mean, SaaS application of VBCS? We can use VBCS to extend SaaS application also. Are we covering these topics also?
See, the extension is what you are doing here. That is actually one part of your VBCS. I mean, that is not a big deal. First, when you learn the SaaS, that is your Fusion application implementation, you will be learning how to do the personalization over there. It means how can I add a new link? How can I add a new URL there? That you are learning in SaaS. Now, how you are building the UI, you are learning here. Now, when I say how to build the UI, I'll be talking like those scenarios. How much we are going to practically, I will see that. I'll be extending it. As I said, I'll be developing one UI where I'm actually getting the data from Fusion application, REST APIs. Okay, that's not a big deal. We are going to do that, you'll be able to do it. Then, when I'm saying, like, for example, you want to develop a custom application with 20 different user UI flows in the VBCS for Fusion applications. Then what we'll do is you have to really come up with some proper design. You have to first decide whether you're going to directly work with your service connections of the Fusion application, I mean the REST APIs, or are you going to create one more PaaS model where you'll be having a database there and you'll be replicating some of the data from the Fusion application to your local database, like your PaaS database. And from the PaaS database, you're exposing additional REST APIs so that you can use it from here. Like that, you have to come up with some model. We'll be talking, a little bit more about that approach. So with this, whatever you learn, the VBCS will be more than sufficient to come up with your custom applications, what you for the Fusion. That I can guarantee. But you are not learning the VBCS confined to one specific use case. You are learning in a generic way, because the VBCS is actually a generic framework which can be used for developing any enterprise applications where the backend is either business object or service connection. That you are going to get the expertise. How exactly are you going to use it for a specific requirement, you will be able to definitely use it, not a big deal. But as I said, we can take some examples, some scenarios for the Fusion applications, because most of you probably would be interested to see that. We can discuss those use cases in general.
Okay. So it's mean in VBCS actually we will first consume the REST services to make the service connection. And
Yes.
once application will build, then we can expose this as a REST services. And then
No,
we
you
can
don't-
use in SCM and
you don't expose the REST in. You're actually giving a URL like this.
Okay.
This is a URL you can put anywhere. This URL now. It could be in Fusion. It could be somewhere else. It doesn't matter. This is a web URL. You understand? See, now if I give this web URL, I can take this URL and add it as a tab in your Fusion applications. And that Fusion application is going to show this UI there. It will look like it's part of Fusion, but it's coming from another VBCS application. Okay, that's a primarily integration. In the Fusion, you don't have much control on the extension anyway. What you can do is very limited in the Fusion side. That's the reason you are going to develop everything in the UI application somewhere else in the VBCS, etc. Then you are going to hook there. That's all. So that's why primarily what you would learn is how to develop this UI. Putting their link is not a big deal. It's just like, no, there's only one way of doing that. You will put that way. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Hi, Bhaskar, this side is Subhan. I need to know one thing. If I need to customize or I need to make a custom solution on Fusion, so I need to work on VBCS or Apex as well. I can do it.
You can take any of them. Apex also works. VBCS also works.
Okay.
See, Murli, sorry, you are raising. I'll take the question after this one. See, we get confused is all these again. How do I put that? Your ADF,
Yeah.
Apex, or VBCS, or a simple maybe your Java-based UI application. UI. What they are doing? They're developing some UI. This UI can be developed using some business. This is architecture we're going to use. You need some business components. Business components are going to get the data from the database, or it may be coming from sometimes your service also, REST API, etc. These are not really meant for ERP only. I mean, not only meant for the Fusion, etc. These are generic technologies. Okay. For example, if you're talking the OAF, OAF was specifically developed for ERP your Oracle e-business suite, Oracle application customization. But these technologies are not meant for that. These are generic technologies. Now you use these technologies to develop the custom UI, and then you can hook anywhere, wherever you want. Now, when you're developing this application, you have to now decide where is your data coming from. Is data coming from your custom database or the data coming from your existing application REST APIs? Both are possible.
Okay.
For example, let us take an example. Say you want to have a create supplier in Fusion, correct? The create supplier Fusion is available. The UI is available in the Fusion applications also. Somebody can say, you can go to Fusion application, create the supplier. But what you are trying to do, I don't want to use that supplier UI because of n reasons. Maybe that is too complex for you. You want to provide much more simpler UI for your enterprise, within enterprise, your whatever. In that case, what you have to find out first, is there a REST API available in Fusion for create supplier? If yes, it's not a big deal. You go to VBCS, develop some service connection for REST API, develop the UI, and hook that UI to this REST API. So whenever the user opens that UI, and then it is going to be a form. You are building that using the UI, whatever you learn, designing the interface. Then when click on the button create supplier, that is going to call indirectly this REST API in the Fusion and create the supplier in the Fusion applications. Now this URL, you can hook somewhere else also. You can give the direct URL to your end user also. Anything is possible.
Yeah, we can check the URL
from
the Swagger as well.
Yeah. Now, for example, create supplier REST API is not available in the Fusion. Then what will you do? It may be having SOAP API sometimes, SOAP service. The SOAP service you cannot directly call from VBCS. In that case, what you do, you may have to create another middleware like integration cloud. That's why I mentioned here somewhere. Using integration cloud, you are going to create a REST service. You're exposing your application as a REST, and integration as a REST. In that, you are going to call the SOAP service because integration cloud supports calling SOAP services. Now, then what you do, you're going to create a service connection for the service what you develop the integration cloud, which is the REST. So it is going to be like this. In that case, VBCS calls your OIC REST as a service connection, which calls your Fusion SOAP. That's possible.
VBCS only read REST services. That's it.
Yes, that is true. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Murli. Sorry. Yeah.
Hi, Bhaskar. I'm a basically ADF developer. By default in ADF also drag and drops, all the features are there, but only 30% we using it. Other 70% definitely we need to write a core Java code.
Right.
In the same way, in a VBCS, by default the functions will be there. If I want to customize the code, so what language we need to write it? In ADF we need to write core Java.
Yeah.
But when you are seeing in something OJET is there, JavaScript I'm seeing it. So what code we need to write?
Okay.
And
according to my knowledge, only two things you can do in VBCS. One is you can write JavaScript. Okay. The second thing is you can build some business logic with the help of action chains. But
is it
again,
language?
no, it's not a language. It's just building some logic here. It's not like flexible, like writing a Java code and all. You can build some business logic. I can take this, let's say I want to call this API. Then I want to get the data into another variable, different structure. From there, I want to assign that to like another variable and so on, something I can do it, which is a kind of business logic we are developing there. The only way you can extend more way is your JavaScript. Okay. But again,
according to sorry to disturb you.
No problem.
If you want to change that UI, definitely some in area of some CSS and some look and feel. Definitely user they want something different colors and look and feel is different. They definitely they will ask. And that point of view, what code we need to use?
That is easy to do here. That is CSS and JavaScript only here also. That there's no other way. You can embed your CSS and JavaScript within VBCS application. That works nicely.
Okay. So what is the prerequisite to write a code to VBCS? JavaScript, CSS, and two is enough.
JavaScript and CSS. That's the only thing you can use here as a coding here.
OJET is not required.
OJET is not required. OJET is actually internally used by VBCS. All the components what we're talking here are coming from OJET, that component list only. Okay. OJET also internally uses JavaScript only, otherwise, but you need not work with OJET here. You can directly use JavaScript. Then using JavaScript, you are going to get the access to your UI, but that is not, again, as I said, JavaScript is only you're going to write when it is really required on the UI side. You will not be implementing a business logic of backend in the JavaScript. That is not a recommended way of doing. You can do it, but it's not recommended.
So understood.
So it means what happens in when you compare the VBCS and ADF. In ADF, you are right. Your 70% actually or whatever based on the application, you'll be writing a lot of Java code. If your requirement is like that, don't do that part in JavaScript here. What you will do in that case, you actually develop the REST APIs using some technology, either PLSQL, ORDS. I started actually explanation with that only. Or use some other middleware. You are writing a Java code, for example, and that Java code you are going to expose as a REST API and call them from the VBCS. VBCS should be, you try to confine the VBCS to only the UI. That is expected in the VBCS application development.
Understand, but the problem is, maybe if we are using an Oracle Fusion, we cannot use those third party. Can we use the third party technologies and then again we need to integrate with the VBCS?
You have to use another middleware for that. You cannot use direct in Fusion.
Okay.
You have to take a PaaS WebLogic server. On the WebLogic server, you have to deploy your Java application or whatever the application, and then you call that REST based on the VBCS.
Okay, understood. Thanks.
It is, yes, going to make our whole architecture more complex, which is not always like, no, not everybody wants to go with that path. That's why you may want to do either database only database. Most of the customization requirements will be having some kind of pass. Either they'll be having a database or something like that. In that case, what you do, you write the logic using PLSQL, and the PLSQL will be called from your VBCS in that case. Okay.
Okay, understood. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Then I think Raja.
Yeah, hi Bhaskar. Thanks for the nice explanation. So even I have having the same kind of question what Murali is having. So I could see that in UI while you're modifying I could see the Oracle Jet related kind of code. I'm right? Am I right?
Yeah.
So I mean, can we say that is this Oracle Jet in cloud in short?
You can say that, but again, we are not really working with Oracle OJet layer here usually.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that. You can add another component if required. For example, if you go to here, if you go to the components, right?
Yeah.
This is actually the list of OJet components only, what you see here. Okay. But these components, you can also, I think, create more components if required. If you really go that level and also this is installed components, I think you can also install your own component here if required. Something like that is possible. I think I never did that. So there only you are going to work with the OJet layer. But otherwise, what you are doing is you are using the OJet component and you're only working with the JavaScript here. Okay. This JavaScript is going to give you access to your components directly.
I mean, how then here I just having a question that how the session management or state management is happening. I mean, just having doubt in that particular area I have.
Which one? Sorry, what is happening?
I mean, the session and state management, how it will manage. I mean, let's say I was on the employee page, so I wanted to go to detail page. I mean, in this case, I have to only pass the employee ID, but sometimes we have to pass a lot of values. I mean, I wanted to push at a time. So the way in the ADF we have a lot of, I mean, entire row I can push. There are a lot of function selection. I can do a lot of things like this. Can we do?
No, you can do here also those things. Whatever you're talking about, the selection list, etc. With the help of action chain and all actions, we'll be able to do that. Okay, this is very powerful. Events, actions, and events are very powerful here also. You can see that what happened here.
Okay.
When I'm going, yeah, in this case, I'm sending only, but even in ADF, right? What do you do in ADF also? If you go to like task flow.
Yes.
Task flow, yes, you can write, you can call a method, I understand. But ultimately, the method is going to give you some input or output only, correct? Like what I say, how
yes,
to put
you are right. You are right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Understood.
So here also you're doing in stuff in between, you're going to call a REST here instead of method.
Okay.
See, I want to take from here.
Okay.
You can see that a good example could be maybe.
So you're calling a REST. I mean, you're calling a method here. Payload you're passing and you're getting the response you're binding here.
Yeah, that response will send it. The whole response also, if you want to send it to the next page, you can do that. But you will not do that. Even in the task flow, you will not send a payload to another page. No, you will send one small input to that page. That page knows how to call another method before rendering the data in the page. Taking that as an input, correct?
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, you are not going to send a payload, the large payload between the pages.
Yes.
Before rendering the page content, you are going to call a method. That's what you are going to do.
Correct,
that is possible here also.
Okay.
So what we do here, whenever you are going to enter into a page, actually these are called events. Like this is a VB enter. It means before the page is loaded, it is going to call this action chain. What is this doing now? This is going to call a REST API to get the data based on the input, whatever I got from the previous page.
Okay, understood. Yeah.
So that's how you're going to build the logic. Usually the logic goes to your action chains here. Okay.
And let's say, I mean, I wanted to, get the content from, let's say, content server. Those kind of things can we do here? Can we integrate the data in these VBCS pages too?
Like content server means like what exactly?
I mean, let's say I have in contents Oracle UCM. I have some files. I wanted to get those files and I have to bind here.
No, that is not easily possible because now UCM, what you have to do is you need to. I don't think UCM has. We don't have any REST APIs, I think, for UCM. So in that case, it is going to be like this path because SOAP services are available for UCM. Okay, like you need to have a. The only thing you have to do is you need to have a REST API. Now in the is Fusion exposing REST APIs to deal with the UCM? If yes, you can use that REST API here directly. In that, but I know SOAP APIs are available using for UCM. Then what we will do, we are going to create a REST API in the OIC. Call that UCM Fusion SOAP here, and this one you are going to call the VBCS. You have to go that path only. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
Yeah, Bhaskar, I have one question. Can I ask? In Apex, this framework similar more or less like Apex. There is also drag and drop all these things, but there we can make a graph all these things, so we can make it over here as well.
Graphs I didn't see. I think it should be there. I need to really check that if I have this graph components. Okay, I am sure it should be there. I didn't work with that, but I can check that. Okay.
Okay.
And if when you're comparing the Apex, Apex is in fact little you will feel little more flexible. See, all of you guys, what you're thinking is reality. The doubts what you guys are most of you asked actually. How do I customize if I want anything, right? I'm trying to convince like you have to do either JavaScript or action chain, which looks very, very like you're tying my hands and saying like you have to use REST APIs only, right? Not many times like I also like it. Okay, but that's how it is. So if you go to Apex, it is much more flexible there because you are always working with the database there. And you can write any PLSQL wherever you want. You can just go to your page and you can write a PLSQL code there directly.
You can just call the package or function.
Package function easily. But can I call package function here? First of all, I don't even have a database here, right? VBCS always assumes that you don't have a database. Okay. You can only create business objects, but the business objects are not database. So what is happening in the industry actually? Why Oracle came up with this kind of framework? It's not like Oracle didn't have any other options. Of course, it had many options. Earlier, it had ADF, right? They could have developed something similar to ADF in the VBCS also. But after a lot of thought, like they have decided like that this is the best way probably for extending your applications and developing UI because the whole industry moving towards microservice architecture in the cloud. In the cloud, everything is REST API. In the cloud microservice architecture, nobody talks about database. Your database will be available as a REST service. That is a model industry is going towards. Already many applications are actually designed that way. So your database is actually not database there. They're talking something called volume. It's only just meant for storing the data. Volume can be file server. It could be your database. It doesn't matter. And applications are going to use your data using REST APIs. What we are losing, because we are coming from database background, we are like no expertise in SQL, which you won't be able to use that. That's the problem here. That's where you will feel like, no, I'm losing something because you cannot write SQL code using REST APIs, correct? But that is the new model in the cloud, microservice architecture, specifically in the Docker, Kubernetes and all. What it does, everything is a service for you. So
the
that's
Docker
why,
also using the services.
Yes. So that is the reason Oracle thought this is the best and very lightweight VBCS. No, VBCS is not coming with a very large container. It doesn't have much of intelligence here. It only works with services. Everything outside that you manage. That's what VBCS says. How you want to do it? The moment you EADF, what is happening? You're forcing the user to work with Java. VBCS is not doing that. If you think that way, right? In Apex, what is happening? If I'm coming from Java background, I don't like Apex because you are forcing me to write only PLSQL code.
Yes.
In fact, we did that. See, our team where I am Java guy, but now I don't write even single line of code in Java for last maybe 5 years because we are using Apex many places. I have to write a PLSQL only now. We become more PLSQL experts over Java now. So the same thing happens to ADF. I remember there was some period in my team where we were developing everything using ADF. But in my team, there were some very experienced people who worked the database for 20 years, 10 years. They were always thinking, why ADF? Come on, I have to write Java code. They didn't like it, right? That's how it works. So probably that's why what VBC is saying, I don't want you to restrict whether you want to write Java code or Apex code. No problem. You do whatever you want. You expose that whole functionality as a REST API and develop your UI. This is only for UI development. You don't bring anything else into this layer. That way. That way it's actually flexible.
Thanks for explanation.
No problem.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, hi Bhaskar.
Yeah, hi.
I just wanted to know how we will write the user-defined validations on UI in VBCS.
Usually it will be JavaScript.
So are we covering some JavaScript examples in this training?
Yes, we'll be covering that. Some JavaScript we'll be doing, yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, we'll be definitely doing some validation, some JavaScript, etc.
Okay, and we will cover some more examples except employee and department, right? Some practical examples.
Yeah, no, we are actually developing a proper HRMS application with proper examples. Okay. Not this 1-2 business objects. We'll be having a set of business objects, set of UI flows, set of pages, different UI components. That will be one HRMS application with proper end-to-end application with menus, all that. On top of that, I'll be showing few scenarios where you are going to consume the data from Fusion applications or Oracle Integration Cloud. If you're not using Oracle Integration Cloud, that's okay. I'll be at least explaining how I'm doing it. When you learn Integration Cloud, it will become familiar for you. But from Fusion applications, you can anyway understand because we're talking the REST APIs. And the REST API concepts are going to explain that even before we go to the application development. That is a part of our, I mentioned already, what is the REST API, etc. That I'll be explaining. Okay. So with that, yeah, you'll be able to get that end to end. Yeah. Okay. So as I said, we'll be doing in HRMS that pay elements, job pay elements, employee pay elements, that customization, all that will be developing separate flows. Those things we will learn. HRMS will be adding more and more features there in HRMS application. It's not like HRMS on Fusion. It's not like employee department. We'll be having a reasonable UI with some flows. I want to call, for example, create employee from different places and there is a flow. How can I do that one scenario? I'm creating one employee. I want to populate the job pay elements automatically based on the job code of this employee. Where do you do that one? That is calling in PLSQL. Somewhere else, I want to expose that as a REST API and I'm going to call here, right? That is going to happen automatically. How we are doing that one with the action chain. Then I go to employee, then I want to edit that. That will be another action chain. All that we're going to put in the flows. Yeah. Okay. Yes. It will be interesting, I'm sure, because as I said, once you create the scope and then start doing, by end of these few weeks, you should be able to know, oh, this is all VBCS about. I can put two different ways. I can say VBCS is very complex and I could have put that way also. It all depends how I am presenting here. I try to present to make it simple. That's how I have to present. Otherwise it's difficult to learn, right? Any technology. Okay.
So Bhaskar, does troubleshooting and debugging also included in this course?
Troubleshooting and debugging, I didn't think much about it, but I'm sure when you're developing that application, you will end up doing some kind of debugging and troubleshooting, which will be, I thought probably that should be sufficient. If there's any other tool available, I don't think there is any tool here. Did you come across any tool in VBCS? I'm not sure about. I didn't get anything like VB troubleshooting separately, like no, your debug tools and all are not available here. So I think whatever the normal debugging techniques is sufficient. For example, if something is failing, you will get some error, and then you will go back and see which flow you are getting the error in this flow. Now, in which page you are getting, in which action chain the problem is happening, etc. You should be able to know it, and that's how you should debug. That's what I believe we'll be doing. Yeah.
Yeah, at least basic debugging like track activity and variables, log messages in console, this type of it.
Yes. So we can do one thing actually. What we can add is we will be doing. In fact, that is correct. So what happens here? If you want to really know what is happening with my data, what is the best way to do that one? You can put some random, like a text box here and display that value of the variable. We do that actually in the VBCS while you're debugging, so that you understand, okay, I got this data from here, which is displaying in this part. Why is it not displaying the actual UI? So you'll be able to understand that. Yes, that kind of debugging you'll be doing. Yeah. I didn't think much about it, but we should be definitely doing it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. That's all from my side. If you don't have any questions, we can wind up here. And we're going to, in fact, have the proper session starting from Thursday. Today, it's more like, I think, overview and demo, I would say. You understand as a technology, I think you understand what is VBCS now, even if you're not going for training. I hope that is useful. And then from Thursday, we're going to start the sessions. Hey, Zafar, you attend OIC, right? I see Zafar Khan. Okay, he's on mute.
Bhaskar, I just have one last question.
Yeah.
So, what is the market right now
for VBCS?
Yeah.
VBCS market, I would say, wherever the Fusion applications is used, those teams are definitely considering VBCS as the primary choice for any customization. That's one thing I would say. Other than that, also some wherever companies were using ADF, etc., they were treating VBCS as a alternate. So market is good, but I'm not sure if you want to become only VBCS expert, how many openings will be there? I'm not sure exactly. I think it works mostly with a combination, in my opinion. Let's say I'm working the Fusion. Now I also know VBCS, which is going to be an advantage. I also know the other web application developments. I also know VBCS now. So what I mean to say is your company may not be having lots of work in VBCS, but you may be having some work in VBCS and some work in Apex and some in ADF. So then they will not be able to recruit only a person VBCS expert. They may be expecting a person who knows the combination of web applications. So you have to position as a two ways. Either I am a Fusion expert, like Fusion technical expert, and also I know VBCS, or I'm a web developer who comes from ADF or Apex, etc. Now I also know VBCS. That way you can position. The combination will work in my opinion.
Okay.
Hello.
And one more thing in the Fusion, the Fusion applications also, if you're coming from ERP and Oracle technologies, the Fusion applications also will be getting their UI, they'll be migrating to VBCS, like slowly. Some of the things I think already done in the Fusion applications also. Yeah, sorry. Somebody asking.
Thanks, Bhaskar.
Yes, hi.
Hi. Yeah, Muzammil, tell me.
Bhaskar Muzammil here. I just wanted to ask how much will be the course duration for this?
This will take about a month.
1 month?
Yeah.
Okay. And one more thing, are you going to start any batch for the Fusion Technical or OIC in this month?
Yeah, we'll be starting, I think, mostly from 20th of this month.
Okay.
But yeah, but I'm not sure whether it's going to be morning or evening. I'm yet to decide on that. Okay. Yeah.
Because if you take one morning, what would be the timing?
Sorry, can you tell me that again?
Morning classes timing, can you please let me know?
Usually it is 7:30 a.m. IST.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually we started one couple of weeks back, integration cloud going on.
Okay.
Yeah, next week mostly will be starting a new batch.
So I hope that this batch will be in the evening.
Yeah, I'll yeah, actually you told me already, I think. Yes, I'll just think about it. Yeah. I'm not decided on that. Okay.
If you are going to start in the evening, then please let me know.
Yeah, of course, I'll keep you in the loop. Yeah, no problem. Okay, and this coming to VBCS, so it is going to be Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, 3 days classes. And Tuesday and Thursday will be taking 1.5 hours, like 90 minutes. And on Thursday will be taking 2 hours class. So this is 90 minutes, 90 minutes. And I think some of you guys wanted to start half an hour late compared to what we did
I requested you.
Yes, so we'll make it 9:30 p.m. I think that's what I am planning in that case. 9:30 p.m. IST on Tuesday and Thursday. And Thursday, then we'll make around mostly 6 p.m. IST on Saturday. Something like that. This exact time I will inform, either 6 or 5:30 or something like that. Okay.
Okay, Bhaskar.
Hmm?
One more question, that in Fusion Technical, do you cover the REST APIs and SOAP APIs?
Yes, Fusion Technical is basically that integration cloud and Fusion Technical. What we are doing there, we are going to cover.
Okay. So REST APIs only below for cloud related, or like if we use in the EBS or like that?
You will understand all the concepts there, REST and SOAP, whatever is required. Only thing, you will not develop a Java REST API because we are working with Oracle Integration Cloud, but we are talking the fundamentals and everything we are going to understand about REST and SOAP. That is more than sufficient for Fusion Technical people, whatever you do there.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, the Oracle Integration Cloud is all about those web services. So you will understand in and out of how to use those services, how to expose your integration with those services. That will be very interesting thing again there. And there we are actually creating many integrations, like 30 plus integrations we are going to work on. Some will be within, like everything we are going to create, and some we are going to call from Fusion applications, etc. And the Fusion application, we are having this file-based data import. We are going to automate that and invoking the report service and manipulating the data. I can send you another this one demo recording of that. You can go through it.
Okay.
Yeah, from the previous demo what I took.
Okay.
There I'll be talking more about those integrations.
You can send me the link.
Yeah, sure, I'll do that. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. If you have any questions, I can of course stay on, but yeah, otherwise we can wind up. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.